All right, we haven't had anybody join us the last couple minutes. I will get started unless anybody has objections to that. Well, I will welcome everybody to our Oregon Library Association Staff Training Roundtable content session. And just to reiterate what the Staff Training Roundtable is here for, we're a resource for any library staff who are involved with staff training at their library. Membership in this group will allow libraries from across the state to discuss current training issues and best practices, share resources, and collaborate on building future training to meet the needs of our ever-evolving profession. And boy, this year has really highlighted that, I think. Now, the Oregon State Library offers myriad resources for library staff around the state. And today we're directing your attention to a few of those practical training resources for your staff. And know that also that the Oregon State Library's resources have been vetted for your needs, and Oregon State Library staff can also help you find other sorts of resources if that becomes necessary. So after our regular presentation, we're going to invite attenders to share some resources either in person or if you want to share those in the chat. A couple of us have some planned lightning talks after a couple of our presenters do their parts, and after those we'll invite attenders to join us. And also for your information, this session is being recorded so that folks can refer back to it. Roberta Richards, the current chair of the Staff Training Roundtable, has put the Google Doc for this in the chat so that you can refer to it if you need to, sharing document and such. And so today our session is practical training resources for your staff. And so right now we're going to start with Blake Kincaid from the Fort Vancouver Regional Library. And because we're doing 45 minutes, we're going to be timing ourselves pretty tight. And I'll do this if you've got like a minute left, if that's okay. Just a 1 minute or whatever. We didn't practice that. So, all right, Blake, take it away.
Hello, my name is Blake Kincaid. I work the Vancouver Downtown Library. Currently the engagement manager, but I was the staff training coordinator for the district before that, so some experience with training staff. Today I'm going to talk to you about the continuing education resources that the State Library of Oregon has compiled and organized for the use of everyone in Oregon, everyone working in Oregon libraries for staff training. It's an incredibly valuable resource. It gets better all the time. You may have visited it years ago and not been aware that it's been really revamped, especially with COVID related training in mind. So right now would be a great time. And I think the most important thing is, I don't know about you, but in my library system, during the shutdown and the change in services, our frontline staff have a lot more opportunities to do some training and maybe go into more depth or cover more topics than we had time for in the past. But those of us who are managers or supervisors, that we can't provide or create the training, we don't have the time, we're actually quite busy responding to the emergency situation. So using pre-vetted, just as Holly was saying, pre-vetted material that other experts have compiled for you could be very valuable. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Got 10 minutes. I'm going to try to keep it to 10 minutes. And so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Just yell out if you do not see my screen. I'm showing you the shared document for this event because it happens to have a really handy link right here, the continuing education resources. So this goes directly to the resource I'm going to share. And I'd like to call your attention to the URL itself. It's a libguide. So I want to make sure that when you do this, I just changed my tab, so hopefully you can see this. I am on the libguide for continuing education resources. You want to make sure you get to that. The State Library of Oregon has a lot of incredible resources and many, many pages devoted to various subtopics. Continuing education for library staff is just one of them. So this one is a really powerful one. And you'll notice it is handily organized by some really top level categories over on the left. It defaults to free for Oregon staff, which, as Tom Peterson used to say, free is a really good price. So that doesn't mean they're just free and you could run into them and get them without going through these links. A lot of them actually cost money, and the State Library of Oregon has found money through grants or other ways of paying for them so that you have access to them, you and your staff have access to them. Oh, look, there's Darcy. There's a beautiful picture of Darcy right there. Looks just like her. So Darcy is going to be presenting about Niche Academy. So I'm not going to do a deep dive, but I'd just like to point out that Niche Academy is one of the free resources that you can get to through this quick list of links. And in that Niche Academy is the Ryan Dowd training, which a lot of people know as the working with homeless patrons. But Ryan Dowd is also, his trainings cover a lot of other topics, a lot of customer service and safety topics as well. They're just amazing, and they cost a fair amount of money. I actually paid for them for my library system, and I can tell you it was well worth it. But if you can get them for free for your library staff, take advantage. So this is the free tab right here, and then there are actually three subcategories here from the State Library of Oregon. So you've got quick link to a webinar, Ryan Dowd, Lyricist. And this is another thing that is important to know before you start sharing this with your staff. Some of the resources require specific instructions for how to get free access, ways to create an account or passwords to use, promotion codes, Lyricist being an example of one. And here are the instructions right here. So you have to follow these instructions for this resource specifically. And that's important to know, but it's also, that's it. That's the entire cost. It's free as long as you follow these instructions. And there's Niche Academy, statewide databases that the State Library is providing free access to for the staff of libraries within the state of Oregon. Learning Express is an incredibly useful one. I've used it a lot. I'm not going to do a deep dive in every single resource because that's not what we have time for. The Tech Talks. I don't know. Our staff and my library system, they want so much training for helping the public with technology. And I'm sure in academic libraries, your staff probably have to help students a lot with technology. So these are some links to a lot of really useful basic training for tech that would be super valuable for your staff. And so that was literally just one tab, super handy. We've got topic talks, other free resources. But over here on the left, there's a whole curated list of COVID-19 related training, webinars, and other topics for COVID-19 specific, which is something I think all of us and our staff are really focused on right now. And these are super valuable. And so here's one way you could use this resource. Let's say you're a small library and you don't have somebody tasked with training and spending all of their time curating and managing training and following up on training. You can use these lists as basically a curriculum that you could point your staff to. You could say, hey, everybody, here's a particular webinar I'd like you all to attend or watch the recording, or some resources to read, and then let's all have a discussion about it internally in our library later about the content. So that's one way you could do this. Your staff will be busy doing valuable training. You'll know what the training is, and then your time isn't spent trying to vet the training and put the resources together. So that's one way I picture people using a website like this. So this is just all sorts of stuff. Look at the thing that we literally missed that was today, but you can look at the recording. It's online career and veteran support services for your patrons during COVID-19. I have staff who super excited about that topic. I'm going to jump ahead so we can keep on track here, but this is a huge world right here, just COVID-19 training. So self-care and work. This is actually a topic I think in the normal times when we don't really have a lot of time. We focus on just those top priority training topics, like how do you make a new library card, or maybe some safety training about an angry or irate patron. But self-care is something that I think we all realize now is super important during this stressful year. Your staff being completely stressed out about the current crisis is not going to help their work. It's not going to help you to get your work done. So encouraging your staff to actually spend a little time on some resources that will help them to stay well balanced, super valuable. And here are a whole bunch of vetted, pre-evaluated resources. You can just point your staff to this, and if anyone asks you later, what are your staff doing? How do you know that's useful? You can say the State Library of Oregon provided this list. And I think anyone in management, that's actually a crucial thought process right there. How do you justify what your staff are doing on paid time? And I think self-care and wellness is an overlooked topic, and right now is a great time to invest in it. And look at this entire tab for EDI learning resources. Before the pandemic, I think this is probably at the top of most people's lists for training, and especially staff training coming up. The Oregon Library Association was all ready to do literally an entire year's worth of focus on it, and the upcoming conference is going to be focused on it. So this is, once again, pre-vetted. So there are these events that you could attend, but there are also a ton of archived webinars, like a ton of them. You just keep scrolling. I don't want to make you dizzy though. Self-paced learning and additional resources. Let me just tell you, this is like a lesson plan. You could literally make this your lesson plan for EDI training for your staff if you wanted to. Tell your staff on their own pace to pick through these and have regular discussions with your staff. And that could be your EDI training plan. And it's all vetted by the State Library of Oregon. Tons of reading material. So I have 1 minute, so I'll just wrap up here. And then, I don't know why, but I actually like this. This is a really comprehensive list of other organizations, library organizations, that I've been to most of these websites, and they do have tons of training material. And I have directed my own staff to some of these websites. And I say that's valuable work time if you become familiar with top-level documents from our professional organizations. And so there's going to be a little time for questions. But just to wrap up, the way I would use this website is I would use it as a place I could send my staff to look at vetted resources, and then I would circle back and have discussions among staff and use my time to direct those discussions and get the value that's specific to my library district. Just remember that the State Library of Oregon, you got to say it the right way or you'll end up in the wrong website. The State Library of Oregon is spending money to support you and your staff, and so it's already been spent, and the time has been spent by professional librarians to put it together. So take advantage of it, get value out of it, and then turn it around to work for your specific library, especially if you have a small library. And that is, according to my timer, just a little over 10 minutes.
Does anybody have any questions for Blake?
And I will stop sharing my screen. And that was really Darcy's thing, but Darcy was also going to present on Niche Academy. So we wanted to make sure this wasn't the Darcy show, but even though that's a wonderful show, so don't get me wrong.
Thanks, Blake.
Well, our next person is Darcy, right here, with our Oregon State Library. Going to look over some Niche Academy tutorials. And Darcy said that she can take some questions after hers as well. So I'll give you a little 1 minute and you can take questions in. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm going to talk about Niche Academy this afternoon, and I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. I do want to mention that I have a few vocabulary words that I'm going to define for this little talk, just to make sure we're all on the same page when I talk about something. So for this afternoon, when I talk about Niche Academy, I'm really talking about the vendor or the company that is providing this online platform and software. They also do provide some tutorials. And then when I talk about the platform or the software, I'm talking about all that functionality that's provided by Niche Academy. And then when I talk about an academy, kind of lowercase a, I'm talking about a group of online tutorials that are hosted on the platform. And then last but not least, when I'm talking about a tutorial, I'm talking about one or more lessons that the learner can access. So we kind of started at the top with the company, and then the platform and the software, and then Academy as a group of tutorials, and then tutorials as a group of lessons. So So what I wanted to start off by showing you today is our primary academy that we promote for library staff training. Some key points about this academy is that nearly everything in it is accessible for free and was either developed by other libraries, by Niche Academy themselves, or other vendors. What's really nice is that Niche Academy, the company, has provided a way for other content developers to share their tutorials. So some of these tutorials couldn't even come from other libraries. It's kind of like an app store for tutorials. So that's really, really nice. Nearly everything in here is accessible without an account, and we'll talk about the advantages of having an account in a few minutes. You'll notice that on the right, there are some categories. So we've tried to put each of the different tutorials in some buckets that make sense. For example, these are the ones that we actually have created. They're either recorded webinars or some other tutorials that we've put together. I'm going to go ahead and show you an example tutorial. This one is Power Mapping, Building Your Library's Influence. So you'll see the title of the tutorial in the upper right above the navigation piece. Over here are each of those lessons I was talking about. Almost every tutorial in Niche Academy platform will have an introduction of some sort. It may or may not include a video. It may include some actual visuals and some additional text to go through after you've watched the video. At the bottom, you can then select Begin to actually go through the rest of the tutorial. And I didn't want sound, so there you have it. This is a very simple tutorial. It's pretty much just relaying information in video, text, and imagery. So I do want to talk about creating an account in Niche Academy and why you might want to do that. When you have an account and you are logged in, the software will actually track where you left off. So if you started a tutorial and you made it through maybe the first 3 lessons, like you get to identifying relationships, and then you're pulled away for whatever reason, you can then come back a day or 2 later and pick up where you left off. There's some functionality that's available when tutorials are created, things like quizzes and polls and other activities, and you won't have full access to those unless you're logged in. And in the last case, there are some tutorials or entire academies that require having an account and being logged in, and we'll see some examples of those as well. Creating an account is pretty darn simple. Wow, let me log out. I thought I was logged out. So now I got logged in. Let's start again. So you click the little person. Oh no. You click the little person here up here. And if you don't already have an account, you can click the Create a Free Account link. And here you just put in your name, your email, and your own password. And then you say, hey, I'm not a robot trying to spam your site. And you can then go ahead and click on the Create My Account link. I believe you will get either a confirmation email or just a notice that you've signed up. That email will come from info@nicheacademy.com. So I'm going to go ahead and log in and show you how it looks a little bit different. Do that one. So when you've got your account, you put in your name, you put in your password. And it will look a little bit different, or it should. For example, you'll have a section of, you can go to My Niche, and if you are enrolled in any tutorials, they'll show up here for you. And you've got some different sorting capabilities if you've got a bunch of tutorials that you signed up for. Let's go ahead and go back to this other tutorial. One of the things I want to show you is some of the interactions that can be provided in a tutorial. So once you've actually gone through these lessons, and you'll notice none of the check boxes are checked because I haven't actually done these, you can then kind of do some self-reflection in some cases. you can answer these questions and really kind of help yourself solidify what you've been learning through these lessons. And then in some cases, there are actually quizzes. So there's a multiple choice quiz at the end of this particular tutorial that you can take and get scored on. We at the State Library, we don't look at any of these answers, so don't feel like you're going to get graded by any of the staff or anything like that. This is all for your own benefit and help you cement what you've been reading and learning about. So I think the other thing I wanted to cover was that in addition to tracking and being able to participate in these activities, we have some tutorials that require registration and verification that you're from a library in Oregon. And it can be any kind of library. It can be school library, special library, what have you. Just so you're with a library in Oregon. We have actually paid for some of these tutorials. And so in this case, this one is by Andrew Sanderbeck. So if you haven't already registered, this text here will help you get registered. And once you've registered to have access, you can either log in if you already have created your Niche Academy account, or you can go ahead and create one afterwards. We do ask for a lot of the content that we're either developing or we're working with people to develop that you complete. How funny is that? Oh, I know why. So I'll show you a different one. There's an evaluation survey link that we take you to just so that we can get your feedback if you found that particular tutorial helpful, so that we know we should continue paying for it or if we should get more tutorials like that or not. So that's kind of a quick overview of the tutorials that we offer in this particular academy. And so you'll remember at the start of this, I mentioned that an academy is a group of tutorials. There are actually a number of different, oh boy, I have to log into someone else. I apologize. Just when I think I have it all figured out. The live demo curse, right? Let's see. Great. I may be in big trouble. Let me try this one more time. One more time. I had it all rehearsed and ready and pretty for you guys, because I have several accounts. Yay, here we go. All right, so we mentioned earlier the Ryan Dowd tutorials. So this is an entire academy. It's got a key tutorial here is the, let me do this, is the core training. And this is a really valuable set of lessons. He does a great job of basically covering everything to talking about what it means for people who are experiencing homelessness, communications, the way you want to talk with patrons who are having that experience, why punishment doesn't work. He just does a great job. This is about 3.5 hours of content. So take your time. And again, because we do actually require you to have an account and be registered, it will remember, for example, where you left off. And you can see up here, I've done these 3 lessons and these 2. In addition to the actual tutorial, Dowd has been providing monthly webinars, and they basically have all of the recorded versions in this academy. So you can go and view any of the previously provided webinars. And again, we do have a quick little thing at the end where we're saying, hey, just go off and take this quick 2-minute evaluation survey to let us know we're on track. And then the last thing I want to show you is that this isn't really a tutorial. It's just a way of capturing that there are other academies you may want to explore. So I do list the Ryan Dowd one here, and then there are a number of tutorials for both staff and patrons regarding COVID-19 at the Reopening Lives Academy. Info People, which does a lot of great webinars and online programming. They've put all of their recorded webinars in Niche Academy, as well as some additional tutorials. And I think one or two of our folks are going to talk about some of their tutorials. And then the Washington State Library also has an academy. So pardon all my little glitches there. I hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Darcy. Do any of our attenders have questions? You can either pipe up, unmute yourself, or you can put them in the chat too.
Going once.
So we had a question. Niche is a great tool. What if folks have subject areas they want to add? Can they talk with you?
Thanks, Tracy. That's an awesome question. I did need to mention that. So two things. In addition to the evaluation survey, if you find that there's a tutorial that just is not appropriate or you think really misses the mark, do feel free to contact me. I'll put my name or my email address in the chat. And if there are topic areas that you would like to see added to the Academy, definitely let me know. I am more than happy to do some research. Again, there's that tutorial app store that I can go and check out and vet some content for you.
All right, so Darcy put her email there in the chat, darcy.hanning@slo.oregon.gov. So if nobody has any questions at this point, we're going to move into a couple of lightning. I muted myself accidentally, sorry about that. Next is Roberta Richards. She's with Portland Community College, and she's going to discuss one of our tutorials that you can find on the resource we've just been covering. So
Yeah, thanks, Holly. Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Roberta Richards. I actually have the pleasure of serving as the chair of the staff training roundtable this year. So I also wanted to take a minute to put in a plug for the roundtable. It is free, and it's an excellent opportunity to network with trainers, library trainers, and anyone who does library training around the state. I am not a trainer, and I have learned so much from working with the fellow people on this staff training roundtable. So feel free to join. It's free, which is a great price. So for the rest of our time together, we're going to share some of our own favorite resources and tools that we've used that we would like to recommend. And I know that a few of the active members of the staff training roundtable have some that they're going to recommend for you, but we would love to hear everyone's resources as well. So if you would like to do, just half a minute or a 2-minute plug for a particular resource, just go ahead and drop your name, put your name in the chat, and we will call on you, and you can unmute yourself and talk about it. Or if you prefer, you can just send it to me and I will add it to that Google Doc, and we can have that resource list that way. So I'm going to do a very quick talk about the resource. Are you seeing my screen? Yeah. All right. So on the Oregon State Library homepage, the very first item that's listed at the moment is called De-escalating difficult COVID-19 customer behaviors, which is a recorded webinar. So I'm going to share just a little bit of information about that because I thought it was pretty darn good. So this is a 1-hour recorded Niche Academy, and yeah, I'm sure you've all had the experience where plenty of recorded academies are as exciting as watching paint dry. This one was actually pretty good. The presenter was Andrew Sanderbeck, who is a professional trainer from PCI Webinars. And my assessment of this hour-long webinar is that it's not perfect, but it was pretty useful. Now, watching a recorded webinar, there's always a little bit of annoyance. Like, for instance, he's talking to people who have chat questions, which you don't see when you're watching the recording. There was like a minute of it that was a little bit garbled, so definitely not perfect. But overall, I found it really useful. At the heart of it, the content was about how to have difficult conversations applied to COVID situations. So honestly, this was basically a recap of everything the frontline staff have already learned about, how to de-escalate, techniques for having those difficult conversations. And then all of the examples were specific to COVID. The recording was done in July, but it still felt pretty relevant. Hopefully resistance to masks and all that is not quite as rabid as it was in July. Who knows about that? But anyway, it was helpful to see those de-escalation techniques, which hopefully frontline staff have encountered before, refreshed and reviewed with COVID as the examples. So the audience for this webinar would be both frontline staff and managers. Definitely would want this would not just be one that I think that you would want your staff to watch without managers watching as well, because the central theme is the need for consistent messaging. You need to have the same message on your website, on your signs, for all of your staff to be sharing. So the webinar includes a list of resources for refining your library policy about masks, social distancing, et cetera, so forth. So some things to think about so you get that consistent messaging. There is a resource, there's a list at the end, but there's also very good resources presented throughout. You can't learn everything in an hour, but all the way through, he recommends to different TED Talks, websites, other webinars that can provide a lot of richness there. There's also a sample incident report form. And if you have specific questions about some of the details of this webinar, I would be happy to share that. So I will stop sharing my screen. And I believe Holly is next in line to do a little lightning talk.
Wow, that was awesome. Anybody have any questions for Roberta? I told you they were lightning talks. All right, I'm going to go into mine. I'm going to try to share my screen really fast. No, I'm not. Change my mind. All right. All right. So my lightning talk is, I'm highlighting the Survival Spanish for Library Staff. It's one of those Niche Academy tutorials. The tutorials are, there's a lot of them in there. So this one you can find under the customer service category. It's called Survival Spanish for Library Staff. And I want to give you a reason to check it out. I'm a monolingual staff member at my library, and I work with lots of other library staff who are bilingual or trilingual, and sometimes they're not always around. So one of the things about the Survival Spanish for librarians, for library staff, it's an easy starting point for a person for whom Spanish may be new or it's not your native language. It's broken out into 7 easily navigated sections. They cover library-specific vocabulary, basic words and phrases for locations and directions within the library, numbers and dates, common courtesy and communication phrases, and there's a lot of computer terms for tech help. There's a couple sections on that. And then finally, common patron questions around circulation and library functions. So this whole tutorial is preloaded with library terms for Spanish, to learn Spanish. Super helpful. One of the sections can start and stop as you need to. You can go in, go through a page of some vocabulary, make yourself some flashcards. I thought that each session content could also be used to create maybe reference sheets for folks at either the circulation or reference desks. If you find that there are some terms and phrases that would be useful to have on hand and to practice with patrons. And each section is repeatable as often as needed. It's not one that you need to register for, and it's got easily gone through the side. It looks very much like all the other Niche Academy. There's on the right side there, you can follow along with the tutorial and what section you're in. So my stretch assignment, the reason why I kind of like this, my stretch assignment for myself in 2021 is to begin learning Spanish. All of my language learning were in other languages that turn out not to be very useful in my current career. So I'm going to do this, and I can see this as a great tool, place to begin, and be able to utilize it right away. I mean, it's literally designed for library staff. So that is my plug for that tutorial. And it looks like something in the chat there. Oh, someone's saying they found Ryan Dowd's COVID webinar really valuable. Yeah, he does a really great job. All right. Does anybody want to make a plug for a resource that you find really useful for training, staff training? Either put it in the chat or unmute yourself. We can keep going. We have some other folks. We have some other folks who were going to, who wants to go next? Was that?
I believe Amy has one.
I can go. Thank you. And this might also speak a little bit to Heather's comment in the chat. And so I wanted to share some resources that aren't from the State Library of Oregon, but instead are from the California State Library. And these are some videos and webinars and resource sheets that I'm going to share the links with you in the chat. There's like very low barrier to entry. You don't have to register for these. The only real hurdle is that I cannot find them compiled in one place. So we'll do that in the Google document. So the first resource here is a series of webinars, which again, I'm going to share in the chat box. Again, this is part of the California State Library Mental Health Initiative webinar series. The webinar topics range, there are a large range dealing with mental health concerns, topics from meeting the needs of patrons with Alzheimer's and dementia, to creating a safe and welcoming library space, creating a trauma-informed space, and much, much more. So I won't talk through all of them, but that link is there for you to check out. The California State Library Mental Health Initiative has also put together a series of YouTube videos on serving patrons who are experiencing mental health issues. And that includes videos like exploring compassion fatigue, the do's and don'ts of interacting with patrons affected by mental illness, establishing a positive culture around mental health, and successfully addressing customer complaints about patrons affected with mental illness, et cetera, et cetera. And these videos are, they're excellent learning tools. They're very short. They're pretty descriptive. And I've talked with staff who have found them pretty helpful. And then the final resource that I'll share from the California State Library Mental Health Initiative webinar series. Suddenly I thought, am I muted? But it's right here. And this is on, it's on their website. If you go there, it looks like it's just another link to the webinars, but it's actually some webinar slides and some tip sheets that you can use. So I'm less familiar with that third set of resources, but judging from the quality of the videos and the webinars, I think that those will be pretty helpful too.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy. We have about 3 minutes left. Does anybody else want to jump in with a quick resource plug? Oh, Laurel.
So this is Niche Academy again from the State Library, but that's okay that it's again because I think it's a terrific product. And the tutorial that I really enjoyed and learned a lot from was the genealogy tutorial, which is in the reference category from the library staff training tutorial section. And I'm hearing challenged, and one thing I really love about the Niche Academy is that when they have the prose and text and imagery while someone's speaking, it's very, very helpful to someone that may be hearing challenged. So it had that format, text and imagery. It also had a short video, and it had also hands-on activities that users were supposed to explore materials in their library on genealogy. So why would you take the genealogy tutorial? Because you know barely anything about genealogy. This will totally give a person a beginning look at genealogy resources and the vocabulary all around it. And so I think you should take it if you don't know very much about genealogy, because it will help any frontline staff that have to talk to patrons about genealogy. Thanks.
Thanks, Laurel. We have a question. Is that how to serve genealogists now?
No, it's just called genealogy. I'll put the link in there in the resources document that we're using, and I can put it in the chat right now.
Thank you very much. Great question. All right. Wow. These are true lightning talks, everybody. Wham, bam. Yes. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Any questions? I'm Holly Free. I muted myself. I'm the chair-elect for the Staff Training Roundtable, and I have lots of help from folks who've been doing this for a while. It's really great. And I appreciate folks showing up today and being with us as we share some of our resources. Feel free to email. We have in the document, in the agenda document, there are emails for folks. So don't hesitate to email, reach out if you have questions. And anything else that, oh, and there's one more thing. Oh, that was the genealogy tutorial. It's from Info People. Okay. Thank you, Laurel. Appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It was wonderful. Be looking for more content sessions coming up, and we appreciate everybody here. Thanks.